A rather wonderful preprint that I just saw, and it is about how they've done some tests and they're looking at how viruses are transmitted from bats to other mammals. And in this case, they're looking along a wildlife supply chain. So basically, from the bat to a farmed animal, and then to that animal at a market, and then to that animal and potentially other animals at restaurants. And they're looking at the transmission, where it happens, how it happens, when it happens. And it's really fascinating. There is stuff in here I never would have imagined, but I find this wonderful. So yeah, I don't know. This is the paper. It's in bioRxiv. It is still a preprint. It has not been through peer review. I would assume it's going through that process now or soon. So, a couple of key points. Point number one, there is a massive market for different kinds of field rats, and they actually list, I think, 5 or 6 different species. There was one bandicoot rat and a bunch of other rattus species, so in the genus that we associate with rats. And that's a big bowl of them over on the left side of Figure 1 that she is sort of shucking and pulling the skin off and putting in the bowl. And then they are live over here on the right in the little cage, which is neat. They also look at, I think, Malayan porcupines, yeah. And they also look at, in addition to the farms where those come from, they look at bat guano farms. So these little branches up here are places where the bats can go up inside and sleep for the night, which is pretty neat. I didn't realize you could do that. And there's a nice pile of valuable bat guano, which is bat poo, on the floor. And so they're sampling the guano, they're sampling the animals. They said some of the rats, they would look in the heads of the rats because they cut those off. That's not where the good meat is. And then those will be often fed to frogs and snakes and turtles and stuff. And so they got a bag of rat heads, and so they could sample it. Okay, and these are the places in Vietnam where this sampling is being done, so it's all right down here in the south. And this is, I think, the key graph in this paper. Although the one at the end is also kind of interesting. So this is they're looking for what are basically bat coronaviruses. They're finding them in several kinds of animals. They're also looking for mouse coronavirus, which we know can infect mice and rats, different strains of it. And yeah, this is interesting. You start out at the trader, so the sort of first point of collection, and you got relatively low numbers of these field rats that are positive. And the field rats, remember, are this group of several things that would look to you or I like a rat, but they're differently related anyway. And then as you go to the large markets where the little traders' wares come together, you see the incidence jumps. And then look, once they get to the restaurants, they're sampling decent numbers of rats, but they have very high positives. So this sort of chain is, this is the order in which things happen, and this is showing that as you go along that order, at least in this study, in this part of Vietnam, with these, what they call wet markets with live animals, the amount of virus does go way up. Yeah, so that was fascinating. And here's some of the viruses that they were looking for. And so they found all kinds of bat viruses and some mouse viruses in the alpha and beta coronavirus. They found I believe it was 2 of the porcupines with a bird, what we would normally consider a bird coronavirus, infectious bronchitis virus, but that may be contamination, I think, because we haven't got, I don't know, that would be very unusual. And then down here, you've got another wonderful little graph, so it's showing genetic distance between some of the sequences that they're finding, and it's showing what animals they find them in, and it's showing what places they find them in. And so these two are really, like, you have to imagine those superimposed on each other as part of the same graph. And what you've got here is multiple different animals. So here's all the different animals up here. And you've got several. You've got 4 kinds of animals that are basically catching the same kind of virus. And this is happening apparently at the somewhere along that supply chain. And this is the human food supply chain. This is what we think probably happened with SARS coronavirus 2. This is what it has been confirmed definitely happened with SARS coronavirus 1. And this is something that needs to be looked at because there are a lot of coronaviruses out there. And these are all viruses that we're looking at here that are not known to infect humans yet, but they are jumping from animal to animal. And sometimes, it's just one more jump, and sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy. You don't really know until the virus has made it. So, yeah, fascinating little study. I would encourage you to take a look, and I don't know, yeah, you may be able to get more out of it than I did. But wow, yeah, very interesting, very topical. Even though all of the data that's in here comes from 5 or 6 years ago, and they're just now analyzing it and putting it out there in bioRxiv. So yeah, enjoy. Thank you. This has been Ask Dr. Ben Update.